This video is sponsored by Care of. Welcome back to my channel, everyone. I'm just going to jump to the chase here. Today, I'm going to give you some context on an emerging thread of celebrity discourse that I found to be rather fascinating. Today, we're going to be discussing what I'm coining to be the Tom Felton Variant. It's a phenomenon in which a celebrity, usually an actor who starred in a popular franchise or property in their youth, is dubbed as cringe by the general masses for, you know, starring in that thing or being associated with that thing and then making it their entire personality from that point on. We'll get into why this term has its origins in relation to Tom Felton, what the current online conversation is actually about, and what this says about celebrity culture as a whole. Would you believe me if I told you that the genesis of this discourse is somewhat related to the war in the Middle East? Somehow it is, because that's the world we live in now. Anyway, before we get into all that, let's talk about today's sponsor, Care of. Care of is a subscription service that ships high-quality, personalized vitamins, supplements, and powders conveniently to your door every month. All you do to get started is take a short, simple online quiz about your lifestyle and health goals, and Care of will give you doctor-backed recommendations. You guys know me, I'm a picky eater, so I don't always get the right amount of nutrients I need from my diet, and my personalized vitamin packs from Care of has helped me get into a better routine and ensure that I'm prioritizing my health goals. Not to mention, individual packs are easy to take on the go, I can incorporate them into my busy lifestyle, and they get sent to your door so you never run out. For up to 60% off on your first order, you can go to takecareof.com and enter my code KaylaSaysFall, or you can visit the link in my description box down below. This limited time offer is available until November 30th, so to take advantage, remember that you can go to takecareof.com, use my code KaylaSaysFall for up to 60% off, or visit the link in the description down below, and thank you so much to our friends at Care of for sponsoring today's video.
Why is the ministry still letting you walk around free, Potter? You better enjoy it while you can. I expect us to sell an Azkaban with your name on it. What'd I tell you? Complete nutter.
Just stay away from me!
I was about to start this script by saying I'm not ashamed to have been a Harry Potter kid growing up, but given the general political climate and the absurd politics of the person responsible for its existence, that statement no longer holds true for me. Harry Potter, once a beloved franchise, has taken on a more, let's say, negative reputation in recent years due to the aforementioned heel turn of J.K. Rowling and also just, you know, people picking apart the flaws in her writing, associating the property with, like, the cringe millennial stereotype, and I'm not really here to get into all of that. I do think it's interesting how the perception of the franchise has changed over the years, but the focus here is on Tom Felton, who played Draco Malfoy in the saga of films produced by Warner Brothers based on the book series. Tom Felton has gained sort of a negative reputation online for a lot of reasons, one of the main ones being that he really loves talking about Harry Potter. He posts quite a bit about it on TikTok, he has a whole book about it, he's often seen doing sort of cringy things that give off the vibe of someone who misses high school a little too much. What I can defend, I guess, and this is an argument I've seen a lot of people use to defend him, is that this behavior is ultimately harmless, it's just a little cringy, and that he has the right to talk about it as much as he wants because he literally grew up as that character. It was such a big part of his life in a lot of ways, it's all he knows, you know? All of the Harry Potter kids came out pretty well adjusted despite everything, so if anything, we should praise that because that's clearly not always the case with child actors. What I will of course add here is that he has defended J.K. Rowling despite her transphobic antics, and I do not fuck with that, just putting that out there. But that certainly hasn't helped his reputation in the public eye. But yeah, Tom Felton is known as the blueprint for this actor who can't move on from the popular thing stereotype. There have been a couple of others who fit this same niche, like Nikki Blonsky from Hairspray or Troy Bolton's dad. But what's interesting to me here is not only the fact that this seemingly harmless behavior has garnered Felton such a weird reputation online, but also that the Tom Felton variant doesn't just apply to the roles that these actors have occupied in the past, it can extend into real-life lore, for lack of a better term. That brings me to the second iteration we've seen of the Tom Felton phenomenon, Taylor Lautner, who you might remember as Jacob from the Twilight series. However, this is not going exactly in the direction you think it is.
Bella! Where the hell have you been, Luca?
You see, in addition to his reputation as a sexy werewolf man, Taylor Lautner is also known for one other thing, being an ex of Taylor Swift, a title that he has taken to rather fondly. Swift and Lautner dated in 2009. There are a couple of songs that she wrote about him. I know Back to December is one of them, I'm sure there's a few more, but the two have maintained a decent enough friendship over the years, which is cool. He is one of the well-liked Taylor Swift exes in the Taylor Swift ex pantheon, but he too has made this one-time recession-era fling his entire personality in 2023 while being married to someone else who was also named Taylor. And sure, there is nothing really morally, legally, or even ethically questionable with any of that, but regardless of those facts, Lautner's behavior is still giving people the ick. This one is probably the most interesting case of the Tom Felton variant to me, because, and I say this as a Swiftie, nobody come for me, Taylor Lautner is one of the few exes that Taylor seems to be on good terms with, and you'd think that this would garner him some good standing with her fans, but if you search his name on Twitter, it's just people accusing him of dick-riding Taylor Swift and being unemployed. And that's really fascinating because not only does it prove how fickle Taylor Swift fans can be with literally anything, but also just how little you have to do to be branded as this type of guy forever. Like, Taylor Lautner is this guy now, and same for Tom Felton. Even if they get cast in new films, even if they get into other celebrity relationships or general shenanigans, they are forever just two guys who are unemployed and longing for a thing that made them famous once. And is that fair? I don't know, I go back and forth on it. And to tie it back to a present-day Tom Felton variant, this labeling can be so strong that it can almost be predictive, even before it happens. And there are a lot of people getting ready to cast this spell, no pun intended, on Noah Schnapp of Stranger Things fame.
What is this? What is this? Why am I tied up?
Well, we're not gonna hurt you.
Where am I?
I think it's safe to say that Stranger Things has become the closest thing we have to a modern-day incarnation of what the Harry Potter franchise was way back when. It's a sci-fi / fantasy-based series that has seen the growth of a number of child actors over the course of several years. I mean, Millie Bobby Brown started out on the show as a kid, and she is literally married now, and so it's natural with stuff like this for people to predict which kid is going to become the next big star, which one is going to spiral out of control, and which one is going to be the new Tom Felton, aka hosting a podcast about Stranger Things 10 years from now, where they talk indiscriminately about other cast members' business and interview like extras who were in the Hawkins lab in one episode or whatever. Because of Noah Schnapp's recent controversies and the fact that he hasn't booked anything super notable outside of Stranger Things yet, people have just expedited the process here and decided that he is the new Tom Felton variant. Obviously, Stranger Things is still in production, so we're going to have to see if that label sticks or if it's just a product of all of the backlash that Noah is receiving for his stance on Israel and Palestine. That remains to be seen. But all of this has made me realize how interesting it is to see these opinions form about people in real time in online circles, and how and why these former childhood actors sort of just get grouped together, whether it's one outlying offense or a repeat series of actions getting deemed cringe by the masses. And it's not like this is a new phenomenon, we see it as a media trope all the time. I just finished catching up on The Boys, and this idea was portrayed by Haley Joel Osment with the character The Mesmerizer, who at one point starred in a show as a child where he used his telepathic abilities to help solve crimes, only to become a D-list hero that older superhero nerds would take photos with at meet and greets. And of course, if you've seen BoJack Horseman, that's like the whole premise, you know, back in the 90s, I was in a very famous TV show. I mean, earlier this week, the cast of Neds Declassified sort of got this label thrown onto them because they've been hosting this podcast where they look back on their experiences during the original run of the show, and I feel like up until a certain point, most people were pretty down with the idea, like it had a lot of listeners, and then it got to the point of like uncomfortable oversharing, and I guess the best way to illustrate what I mean here is just to play the clip from the show that's floating around in the ether right now.
Do you remember?
What are you gonna ask on this podcast? What are you gonna ask on this public podcast, Lindsey?
Do you remember that?
The first what?
BJ.
I actually do. You really want to talk about this on the pod?
I just wanted to say that I felt like a failure from that point because
he didn't finish.
I know. Yep.
No.
You didn't. You didn't. After a moment, he just said, "Thanks. Okay." And you got up and you went to the bathroom and you did your thing.
No. I don't remember that at all.
Which one do you remember? The one on the couch?
No, I remember the one in the backseat of your car. See, we can't talk about this on the pod.
Oh.
Dude, I can't believe...
We got busy in quite a few places.
Okay, so I started writing this script like a few weeks back when all of the Noah Schnapp stuff started going down, and I waited until now to put it all together because I felt like I was missing sort of a tying link or a takeaway from all of this. But after seeing that clip and what people are saying about it online, I think my biggest insight here is that when it comes to child actors, you know, actors of the past, now, in the future, that experience has been a rather profound one for them. And that makes sense, you know, major milestones happen in our lives and we still talk about them with trusted friends or family members or mental health professionals depending on the circumstance, but child actors sort of go through this phase where they're experiencing all of that, but they're not allowed to talk about it. And so when they get older and they have all of these realizations about those experiences, of course they want to overshare that because they didn't get that opportunity before. It makes sense that Tom Felton has such a reverence for the Harry Potter franchise. It makes sense that Taylor Lautner feels such a strong connection to Taylor Swift all these years later, and it makes sense that the Neds Declassified kids are grown adults oversharing about their first blowjobs on a podcast. I don't know if there's a solution here, but I feel like these kids who are now adults would benefit from some sort of healthy outlet to discuss these experiences, their trauma, their memories, without immediately being labeled as cringe and unemployed, or dispelling it to an entire public audience who has these judgments that they're willing to cast at any moment. Like, I know we'd all like to think that we'd be Zendaya if we were in this position, but most of us would probably end up like Tom, or Ned and Mose, or Bojack, or whoever the fuck. But yeah, I just thought this whole thing was interesting. Hopefully you did too. That's all for me today, you guys. Remember to follow me on Twitter and subscribe to my Patreon if you'd like some bonus content. I actually spent most of today working on a different video about Jimmy Kimmel and the Oscars and the evolution of hosts over the years, and then that video got blocked worldwide because the Academy, you know, sucks. So that is now up on my Patreon. The full episode is up there if you are interested. Stay warm out there, don't eat the yellow snow, and I'll see you next time.
Snipe. Severus Snape. 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 Severus Snape. Snape. Snape.